This is the second video for Grade 1 Theory. In the first video we looked at rhythm. This one is all about pitch, which means how high or low the frequency of a sound is. Look at everything we've got to learn, and this is just Grade 1. So let's make a start with staves and clefs. A stave is a set of 5 lines. It's a frame on which you can write musical notation. Little circles and blobs representing musical notes can be placed on the stave. These are instructions for us as musicians, so we know what to play. So how do we know which blobs mean what notes? There are loads of possible notes, but only 5 lines. The answer to this question is to put a clef at the start of each line to narrow down the range of notes we need to think about. The treble clef tells us that we are using higher-pitched notes. There are still quite a lot of notes to remember, but there are ways of making it easy to remember which notes belong on which line or in which space. In the treble clef, the notes on the lines, starting at the bottom, are E, G, B, D and F. A little sentence can help us remember this. Every good boy deserves fun. The notes in the spaces are F, A, C and E. And the imaginative way we remember this is they spell the word face. The bass clef tells us that we are using lower-pitched notes. The sentence we use to remember the notes on the bass clef lines is, "Good boys don't fight anyone." And the sentence for the notes in the spaces is, "All cows eat grass." If we want to use an even wider range of notes, there are other clefs and other ways of indicating the notes, which we will learn about in the future. As we learn about pitch, we will be referring to piano keyboards. In many ways, the keyboard is an easier tool to learn music theory than, say, a guitar, because of the layout of black and white notes. Music for a piano is written on a grand stave, which is a pair of staves joined together with a curly bracket or brace. The top stave is for the right hand and usually has a treble clef at the start. The bottom stave has a bass clef at the start. You can take a moment to see how the notes written on the stave relate to the keys on the piano. Notice how middle C can be written on either stave. It is the same note, but written in different clefs. Now we move on to tones and semitones. When thinking about note names, a keyboard is most helpful because you can see a pattern of white and black notes. To explain what a semitone is and what a tone is, a guitar can be more helpful. Let's translate that to the keyboard diagram. A semitone is the distance between 2 notes that are next to each other. Add 2 semitones together and you get a whole tone. Notice that tones and semitones are nothing to do with the pattern of black and white notes, but they depend on whether the notes are next to each other or they have a note in between. The sign that looks like a small B is called a flat sign. When you see it written down before a note, it means you have to play the black note 1 semitone down or to the left of the white note that is written. The black note is then called, for example, B flat. The sign that looks like a hash is called a sharp sign. When it is written down before a note, it means you have to play the black note just above the white note it refers to. The black note is then called F sharp, for example. You can see then that the black notes have two possible names. F sharp can also be called G flat. The name you use depends on the context, which will be explained in a future video. For now, you'll just have to accept it. The white notes on the keyboard are called natural notes. They only have one name, although you will find out this is not true when you get to the higher grades. The natural sign is used to cancel out a flat sign or a sharp sign, so unless you are told otherwise, all written notes are naturals. Now we're going to think about scales. Scales. A scale is a pattern of notes arranged in steps, going up or down. The notes are then rearranged into a piece of music. The scale you choose helps to decide the character or mood of a piece of music you are making up. For this grade, we are only going to think about major scales, which are generally happy sounding. Hooray! We will start by thinking about the scale of C major, which starts on the note C. Obviously. The notes in this scale are all natural notes: C, D, E, F, X, just joking, G, A, B, and C. The scale goes up in steps. Most of the steps are whole tones, but if you are a genius, you will see that the interval between E and F is a semitone, and the same for the interval between B and C. The pattern of steps is therefore tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. All major scales use this same pattern of tones and semitones. It so happens that when you start on C, the pattern uses only white notes. All other major scales have to use at least one black note in order to stick to the pattern. So this is the scale of C major. Now look at the scale of G major. It starts on G and uses one black note. But which one? Well, look at the pattern of tones and semitones. The last interval in an ascending major scale is always a semitone, so the black note must be F sharp, the scale of G major. Now think about D major. If again you are a genius, then you will find another clue here which tells you where the two black notes are. I'll point out the clue a little bit later. Bet you can't wait. In the meantime, the two sharps are F sharp and C sharp. The order in which you list the sharps is important, but for this grade you won't need to remember more than F sharp, then C sharp. So that's the scale of D major. F major, like G major, uses only one black note, but it is a flat, not a sharp. Again, work out which one using the pattern of tones and semitones. The key of F is therefore B flat. Chords and tonic triads. A chord is what you get if you play two or more different notes at the same time. They may sound nice or nasty. Just as scales form the basis of melodies, chords form the basis of harmonies. Tonic triads are the most basic kind of chord. They are called triads because they contain 3 notes. You might think that 2-note chords are even simpler, but no, they are special, as you will start to discover in grade 2. And they are called tonic triads because the bottom note of the chord is the tonic note, or first note, or root of the scale.